Three Kings subreddit to share our experiences following any kind of paranormal recipe or ritual. We've been doing this podcast for a while now. It's a little over a month now, and I've had the opportunity of interviewing some really interesting people. They come from all walks of life. One of them, for instance, Brian, he had the experience with the Black Eye Kids. That was, incredibly interesting. Then we had Yara, who is probably just an amazingly professional person who knows all about rituals and he's done them upside down and sideways. And then we had people like our last guest TJ, who have simply been through really unique occurrences in her life. So today we have a member of the subreddit. I'll introduce him very soon. Is Isaac. He comes with a very interesting set of thoughts about rituals and things that he have done. We should think of this episode as a review of the kind of things that we post in the Three Kings subreddit. We're going to look at some posts that have been made recently. There is this ritual in particular, red door, yellow door, that apparently has taken the community by storm. So we're gonna be looking into a lot of that. And if anybody is listening and would like to post any question for us, for me, for my co-host Sean, who has forgotten more than I'll ever know about all things occult, or for our guest Isaac, then please go to Twitch and just type any question in the chat. I have it set up so it's going to show up on the screen, and I'll read your question and we'll answer it. And we'll try to have a dialogue, right? The reason why we're doing this in the first place is because we're trying to just make something positive about all this paranormal potential that we see. The co-host with the co-host mostest, I just screwed that joke. Dapper, how are you doing tonight, my friend? Co-hostess
I'm doing very good.
with the
I'm doing fantastic.
see. Next time I'll say it right. Co-hostess with the co-mostest. That's the thing. That's what I'm gonna. So I'll write it down. Good to hear you. You sound good. You have a good mic. Good volume. Everything is cool. And now we have our guest. Ask us to call him by name, Isaac. Isaac, how are you doing? That we lost you for a second. Say hi again, please.
Hello.
Hello, Isaac. So I want to start with a few basic questions. Just tell us about yourself. Like introduce yourself in the context of all this paranormal stuff that happens in Three Kings.
Oh, well, I've been like lurking here for a few years. I'm Isaac, by the way. Um, I have been like slowly just distancing myself from this because since I've like started doing rituals and all of that, I've had night terrors, sleep paralysis.
Oh my God!
Like, imagine every terrible thing that could happen to you while you're asleep, and then just that's just how it is.
Wow. I did have a few episodes of sleep paralysis. It is not fun. And the worst part about it is that I knew what it was. I knew it was sleep paralysis, and I had googled all things about it, and I had the academic theory of it. It didn't make it any easier, you know. In in
Yeah.
in my case, I woke up and obviously I couldn't move. Right, that's the definition of sleep paralysis. But in my case, I heard all these really angry voices. They were shouting at me, and I couldn't make out what they were saying. It wasn't in any language that I knew of, but I could tell from their tone of voice that they were very angry with me and they were scolding me for some reason. And it's just really terrifying to just lie there and get scolded, and there's nothing you can do until it just went away by itself. And then, I woke up, went in my bathroom, just washed my face. So,
I would just like to state, I hope that after this airs, that the subreddit can help perhaps give some help to keep those things away from your life if you want to move on. They might
yes.
have techniques to remove these night terrors or to banish whatever things might be following you. But
Oh,
continue.
yeah, yeah.
Isaac, tell us more about these night terrors. How was it for you, and is it still going on?
Um, I get them occasionally. They're not as bad as they used to be, but it would be like the kind where you can tell you're dreaming and you feel stuck. You just are
Right?
stuck there. Like
What?
the wake up in a cold sweat kind of.
Why do you
Um,
think these things started?
I think I've been doing a lot of things I shouldn't have, like as far as rituals and the occult goes, because sometimes you start something and you just can't finish it, or you have
Ah.
to, you know?
I
So,
know exactly what you mean. I have some
yeah.
personal experience. Exactly. So let's dig into that, right? Let's go into that subject because it sounds like you see some sort of relationship between this sleep paralysis and the ritual stuff. So I want to explore that, right? So what was the first ritual that you attempted? It doesn't matter if you completed it or not, but which one's the first one that you think has something to do with this sleep paralysis that started to give you these problems?
I think like the first one I did might have been the Red Book game, something like that.
The Red Book game. So just to people who are not familiar with this, this is where you grab a book. It has to be red, and you basically just jump from one page to another, reading specific words in it. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Let me see if I can find the actual recipe. I wish people in the subreddit actually use the tags that we're supposed to be using. Then I would just go for recipe and it would probably give it to me. All of these are experiences. The Red Book Ritual experience. A lot of people have done this. Hello, recommendations. Huh. Well, let's try something because let's see. Red Book recipe. I don't have a lot of. All right, well, let's try the index. And in the index, we find the red book. All right, I know eventually I can do Control F and it's going to work. There we go. Thank you. Red book. Ask questions using a book. Oh, link us offside. Of course, I couldn't find it in the subreddit. That is what I banned external links, ladies and gentlemen. Red Book Paranormal game from Mexico. Interestingly, I this is news to me, and that's very I am from Mexico, and I never heard of the Red Book. All right, step one: place the palm of your hand on the cover of the book. Close your eyes. Say aloud, "Red Book." Okay, keeping your eyes closed, open the book. Random page point to a sentence, and that is the answer to your question. If the answer is positive, you can play. If it's negative, then don't. Everyone can take turns asking questions to end the game. You ask for permission, and then it's over. So, tell us what did you do? What book was it? Was it read? What questions did you ask? How did that go?
Um, I'm not sure if I remember what book it was, but it wasn't a soft cover, it was a hard cover and the title was like engraved in it. I remember that. It like as soon as I picked it up, I'm like, this is real. This is too real.
Like it couldn't be coincidence because the answers you were reading were very closely matched to the questions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what questions were there?
Um, think I was asking things. At first it was things like college, things about my friends, um and then it started getting like weirder. I had two people with me
Yeah.
and they were asking and kind of normal. They were just like slowly drifting off into darker questions and she asked something like um oh my god. I'm so sorry. I have
No, no,
ADHD. I can't even remember a single
no. That
thing.
that 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 is fine. So there were multiple people asking questions all at the same time from the same book.
Yes, we were all taking turns. There were three of us.
I see. So I think I can sort of guess what kind of situation it was. It's one of those things when you're with a group of friends and just doing something like seems cool, like you do it for the rush just to see what happens and it's fun at the time. Is that kind of how it started? That's how I imagine it would start,
Yeah. Yep, that's it.
right? But then things start getting serious, right? Because the answers like started to be a little too on the nose, and then people started
Okay.
getting a little bit spooked. Am I right also?
Oh, yes, of
Yeah.
course.
And then eventually it got spooky enough for at least one person to say, you know what, I'm out of this. Did that also happen? Did anybody quit, or did they stay till the bitter end?
Well, yes, we quit, but it took a while because you have to ask for permission to quit.
Exactly. So remember what you were saying earlier, that you left a few things incomplete? That's where I was going. I was thinking that
Oh, yeah.
maybe someone left ahead of time without asking permission, and I don't know. I mean, if these things are real, maybe that matters.
That could have happened for sure.
So, did anyone from your group of friends start to experience the same things you started to experience? Just this night paralysis or nightmares or anything of the sort? Or was it just you?
Um, no, that was just me, but
Hmm,
I've noticed like everybody else that I did it with, there's been like almost like a cloud of negativity following them, if you will. Like
I see.
everything they do is just it's got like a negative reaction right behind it, you know?
Like a really bad case of bad luck, sort of.
Yeah.
Have you talked to them about it? Have you said, "Hey guys, maybe it's not bad luck, maybe like there's something deeper than that going on."
I haven't even thought about it until now, but I guess I should.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the case. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna help or if it's gonna make things worse. It's just I'm exploring some ideas because clearly in your case, you do seem to think there is a connection, right? Like
Yeah.
before you didn't have any sleep paralysis, now you did this red book thing. And what was your first sleep paralysis like? How did that what happened?
Um, it was a few days after that, and the first time,
Yeah,
it was really weird because there was a lightning storm outside,
okay.
and I couldn't move, but when I had opened my eyes, every time there was a flash of lightning, I saw a man on top of me, like all dark yellow eyes, like, but I couldn't see him until there was a lightning flash, and it was awful.
That's terrible. That reminds me. I don't know if you heard our previous episode that we had a guest DJ. She used to see shadow people. It reminds me a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah. So so that happened, right? Eventually the paralysis went away, and you were back to your normal self. Did you immediately make the connection? Did you just think, "Oh, this is because of the red book thing"? Did you know?
I didn't make the connection immediately. I started to look for common threads um, between my physical and mental health and my habits, things I had been doing, and that was like the only common thread. Like I've always been like a little spiritually sensitive, but like sometimes I just feel like I'll be in a room by myself and feel like I'm in a room with a crowd, you know?
I know what you see. Some people have the sensation that they are being watched. They feel like they're
Yeah.
being observed. I know what you're saying. I know. So, if you didn't make the connection right away, then what did it take? Like, at what point did you finally say, okay, this is because of the ritual I tried to follow?
Um, well, there was a point where not only was there just a lot of like almost like a negativity buildup, like in my house and my friends' houses, both of them.
Yeah,
And it just felt like we were all it was almost like the exact same things were happening to us. Like
I see.
not even coincidentally, like we would go out and have separate days out in separate towns, and then when we would text each other, we would find out that all the weird things that had been happening to us all day had happened to all the other people. And so
I see. I see.
as this like
Yeah,
spiraled down and I'm like, this is weird, it just felt like as all this weird stuff was happening to me, like my mental health was getting worse and worse and worse. And it took like almost like so close to a psychological break to really get it, to understand where all this was coming from.
I see. And once you knew that, right? Once you were sure that this was paranormal and that this was related to this ritual you attempted, then what did you do?
Um, I moved out of my house,
Oh,
actually.
okay. And like,
I went,
was that like the number one reason? Like, I'm leaving this house because it's haunted, or like, were you just in the process of
um,
moving anyway?
my
And
house wasn't haunted, but I did feel like a lot of the rituals I did, a lot of that was in that house.
okay,
And in that house, like I said, it just felt like everything was building up in there. Like there was
right,
no
right.
way.
And was that the main reason? That's one of the most extreme. Like most people would say, burn some sage or do some cleansing or something. You actually left the house. Was that your main reason for leaving the house?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely one of the main reasons.
Did it work?
Sort of. It worked,
Okay,
sort of.
okay, okay. So it sounds like things didn't go away entirely. Like some stuff were still happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
So
like what kind of things were still happening?
instead of sleep paralysis,
Yeah,
when I would close my eyes to sleep at night,
yeah.
I would get exploding head syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of that, but to anybody who hasn't, that's where right when you're falling asleep, you hear loud noises. And I would hear screaming as soon as I was falling asleep.
Exploding
And
head syndrome. A person experiences unreal noises that are loud and of short duration when falling asleep or waking up. Jesus Christ, this is horrible. I had not heard about this. This noise might be frightening, typically occurs only occasionally, is not a serious health concern. Is not a serious health concern. People may also experience a flash of light. Pain is typically absent. So basically, as you're trying to fall asleep, suddenly it is like a booming noise or something horrible. This-
yeah, I hear screaming. I hear almost like the roof is collapsing.
Do you have anyone in your network, family, parents, anybody that could help you with these things?
Yes, I do. I have a really great support system,
Okay,
but it seems like when we all try to get to the bottom of it, they just can't find something in common with it, but they don't know what I know. Like they don't know that I have this little bit of like I've dipped my toe in
right,
some dark stuff over there,
right.
you know?
Have you told them that you have?
Um, my girlfriend, yeah.
Okay. I mean, what is because I can only imagine one of two possible reactions based on people I've talked to before. Either they fully believe you and they are on board and they start looking for a paranormal solution, right? Because you're giving them a paranormal problem, so they start
Yes.
look for a paranormal solution, or they go completely to the other side and said, you know what, let's talk to a doctor. This is something psychology can't explain, and you need some therapy, and maybe you are stressed, etc. Right? So both of those are well-meaning, right? These are people who care for you and want the best for you, but one of them thinks the solution has to be in the realm of the supernatural. So which way did they go when you told them you had these problems?
They went fully towards believing me, like
Ah,
fully.
oh, that's good.
So, my aunt, she's a witch. She came out and cleansed my house downstairs, upstairs. Not the
Ah,
house I used to live in, but this house.
the new house,
She cleansed it for me.
right? The one that you
And
moved into. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So she came and cleansed it, and
Yeah.
for the longest time, I had lines of sea salt around all of my doors and windows. And then, especially in my bedroom, I would make them a lot thicker. I would tell everybody that came into my room,
Yeah.
like, you step over those, do not break those
Do
lines.
not
You will
break
get
the
hit,
line. I see. Did it work?
Um, yeah, it worked in it felt like my room was safe, but as soon as I got out, like, I was back to the yeah.
So any anywhere beyond the line of the salt, you were safe, but if you stepped out, then you were not safe anymore.
Yeah, that's basically how it felt.
What did you say it was your aunt who did the cleaning?
Yeah, yeah.
What did she say about this new problem?
Well, she said something like, if you guys aren't like comfortable, if you feel like something's wrong, I'll just
Yeah,
do it. She came in with a little bundle of sage and what's it called? An abalone shell. Just,
yeah.
just, you know, smoke everywhere.
Right. And at that point, I mean, the problem, if we could define it, is that you had this sensation that you were being watched and that felt like there was just dark, negative energy around you, basically, right?
Yeah,
And of course,
yep.
the exploding head syndrome, which is not nothing. Good
Which
Lord.
is fucking weird, right?
Which is exactly, that's not like, it's not a small detail, right? So all right, well, so clearly this continued, and then what happened? I basically, did you ever find the solution, or are you still having any kind of issues?
I am actively finding solutions.
Okay,
I think some things work for a while and then I have to try something new.
I
It's a
see.
learning process.
Wow. So if you had known all of this at the time of the Red Door, game, Red Book game, I guess you wouldn't have done it, huh?
I think I think I would,
You still would have explained it. How come?
because doing all of these rituals and getting into all of this, I feel like I have a better understanding of what's happening around me, like
Uh,
further than my five senses, you know?
I know exactly what you mean, because that's the reason why I started this podcast. And that's the reason why I keep this Reddit. That's not why I started it, but that's why I keep it.
And it's the
Because
adversity that makes us who we are.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure.
And there has to be an answer. So I mean, I don't know if we're gonna be the ones to find it. I know someone will. And in general, scientists do well with data, and if we can generate data, like all of these data, right? Look at how many people have done Red Book stuff. Like a lot of them, at least the top half of this. And if we could start seeing patterns in these things, and somebody serious could start using the data to just generate some worldwide research, then
Oh,
maybe,
of course.
right, maybe there is. I'm not saying it's gonna be worth it, right? I don't think nothing is worth exploding head syndrome, but at least it won't be for nothing, right? At least it will
Yeah.
have some value. So before we were jumping in the show, we were just chatting in Reddit. You mentioned you have done other rituals also, not just the Red Book, right? You've done other stuff.
Yes, I have.
So tell us about it. I mean, what else did you do and why? Because clearly your first experience was a little bit negative. So I'm curious to find out, why did you keep trying when something had been, not so great the first time?
Yeah. I I've done the classic red door, yellow door. Everybody's done that.
Oh, you have done
And
that.
in the eye of the giant, which is very similar, but it takes so much longer.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
What
I'm
why is
very
that? Just
glad I did
a
both of those.
thrill, just to see what happens? What was your motivation here?
Um, I think, yeah, I was gonna try it out to see what happens. I
Right,
think the intensity of what I was doing just got more and more every time.
right, right. So I a little bit familiar, not greatly familiar with this ritual, because it's very similar to another one called Doors to the Mind. They have a few things in common, which is sort of like a trance-like experience where you have somebody aid you enter this new, state of mind. So here's how it goes. It says you need a pillow and two people. The sleeper will be in a trance, might not be able to get out. Make sure they are willing to do this. If you're just plain rude, don't tell them. This is awful. Don't do that. Right. All right. Everybody playing gets in one room, and people who aren't playing get out of the room. So this enforces silence, and this enforces some sort of ceremony, which always helps because rituals are powered by belief. So if you have a little ceremony, it helps you take it seriously, and seriously brings belief, and belief makes things work. There will be one questioner and one principal. The rest help out. Okay. First, sit cross, crisscross applesauce. Just sit like the way at school when you sit on a carpet. When done with this, instruct the questioner. So interesting. So this crisscross applesauce, a better name for it, what would it be? The lotus position, wouldn't it be, Dapper? Right? This is something that is
I'm
used
not
in
quite sure. I've
meditation.
always called it crisscross
Wait, say that
applesauce.
again. Lotus position.
I mean, it doesn't say lotus; it says crisscross applesauce. But
Crisscross
crisscross.
applesauce.
But here's what I find funny, right? Clearly, this person who wrote the words crisscross applesauce is not someone who had heard of the lotus position. But
Well,
nevertheless, they are the same,
yeah,
right?
but I mean, the crisscross is something used in like kindergarten. So people who grew up with that, it would stay with them all their lives.
Exactly. So, and to me, that feels like a weak, but still corroboration. It's still corroboration because what are the chances that we have people from very different walks of life, right? Someone who calls them the lotus position versus somebody who calls it crisscross applesauce, and they mean the same thing, and they probably act the same way, and they do the same. They produce the same effects.
Well, it's the thing exists, and then people come up with words to describe the thing that exists. Rose by any other name still is sweet.
Exactly. Exactly. So to me, what this means is that there is something about this position. And if I remember correctly, it has to do for people who believe in chakras, it has to do with a certain alignment of the chakras in the body when you place your body in this particular
It's
pose.
basic meditation 101. You're focusing and you remove all distractions. Your legs and arms can be distractions from your mind.
Exactly, exactly. So here's and everything points to that conclusion, right? Everybody gets out of the room, so that means you're empty with your helper. You are preparing yourself for a transformational experience in the sense that your mind will go places. You sit in this position, which is a meditation position. Now it says, when done with this, instruct the questioner to put the pillow on your lap and have the sleeper lay down with their head on the pillow, hands raised up and their eyes shut. So basically, you put your head on the person's lap, the ones who's helping you. As you will see, these will very quickly go into techniques that are used elsewhere for relaxation and meditation, right? If you want somebody to relax, you put their head on your lap and then look at the instructions. Rub the sleeper's temples, and while doing this, have everyone except the sleeper say in unison, red door, yellow door, any other color door. So that's a mantra, right? And why would people say mantra? Because it focuses the mind on this one repetitive thing that sort of blurs out everything else and allows you to enter a state of meditation. Am I in the ballpark, Dapper? Is that how mantras work?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
That's the focus. They're tools. The focus of the mantra is to focus the mind into one. It's like in Harry Potter, they use wands. Essentially, it's just a way to direct all of your energy to one focal point, and that's what the mantra and the positioning of the body does.
Exactly, exactly. So what we have seen so far is just meditation 101. Then it says repeated and the sleep meditation 101 as discovered by somebody in grade school, which makes it fascinating for me. Repeater and the sleeper should lower their arms when they are falling in a trance. Yes, exactly, because they are in a trance, right? Their arms fall down. They're relaxed now. They will see doors, and the questioner asks them questions. When you want to stop, shake them hardly, because that will wake them up. Right? They will sit down and the questioner asking questions because the asking of questions is sort of what guides this. I'm not call it lucid dreaming. Oh, look, they do call it lucid. Because of this, I think lucid dreaming will assist you on your journey. Yes, it will, because it's very similar to wake up if you are the sleeper. Tips: if you go into a room with clocks or a man or men in black, get out, they can trap you. Lighter colors are better than darker colors. This is super interesting. I don't think this has anything to do with meditation, Sean. What is your take? Clocks, men in black, get out, they can trap you.
I don't know about that because I think, for all sakes and purposes, this is a meditation.
Yes, agreed.
I don't believe that anything you could conceive in your mind, because my take on this is that it is in your head. I don't believe
I
that
agree.
anything you could conceive in your head could trap your could trap you from your physical body. I
Yes.
think that might not be something you need
Well,
to worry
then what are
about.
night terrors?
What now?
The night terror experience, the sleep paralysis things, is that a form of being trapped?
I think it is, yeah.
Mm.
I think they're kind of suggesting that they're inflicting or they're not inflicting. They're in this meditation state. The person, the pillow, is becoming receptive like an antenna, and they're saying if you receive a bad signal, to watch out because you can reach something that is like night terrors. But I think what also
Ah,
indicates here in this one is that these specific people in their experience interacted with men in black or form of clocks
yeah,
that caused a sort
Okay.
of nasty outcome.
I see. You have a point. Now that I think about it, I'm starting to see this in a different light because we're talking about meditation experience where you will enter some sort of lucid narrative territory inside your head, right? You're gonna be see doors at the very least, and while you are in this realm of exploring the subconscious, it's probably for your own good if you don't mess with scary or dark or negative parts of your subconscious, and they are represented here as clocks or men in black, right? Basically, what this is telling you is during your meditation trip, let's call it, avoid the scary parts because then you're gonna have a bad trip. That's sort of what it reads like to me. Same for the other one. Lighter colors are better than dark colors. This is just advice on how to have an experience that is somewhat positive and you don't get scared out of your mind. Does that make sense? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So how was your trip? How was your red door, yellow door experience, Isaac?
Um, the first time I did it lasted for maybe an hour, which is a long time for the first time.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember a whole lot of it except that at the end I walked up a white staircase and then the room I was in was all white. And then I just felt like, even though I couldn't see the walls, that they were coming in and closing in. And as much as I could rationally try to calm myself down,
Yeah.
I just woke up choking.
Uh, uh, and afterwards, did you feel like that's something you would try again, or were you like, I'm done with this stuff. I'm never doing red door, yellow door ever again?
At that time, I was like, no way, never again. But I did it again a bunch of times.
But then you did it again. So same reason, just to see what happens, just because it's thrilling. I mean, that's not a bad reason. I've done a lot of stuff for that reason, so I cannot judge.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did the other times go? I mean, did you ever have a positive experience? Like did something actually
I
cool?
did. I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us about it.
I
Tell us about it.
I figured out I basically had devised a way to get myself through it.
Okay. Oh, you mean
I've
like
been a
without
lucid
a?
dreamer. I have meditated for forever. And I was like, okay, whatever.
So
If I die, I die.
well, I mean, but are you saying that you didn't need a questioner? Like you could do this solo?
No, I think you can do this solo. I think reasonably. Yeah, I've done that.
Ah. So what?
Well,
What?
absolutely. It's just you want to always have an anchor. The reason you have a sitter, especially like on drug trips or doing things like this, is a sitter helps pull you back if you get lost.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Yeah,
I.
yeah, of course.
What was the case with you? Did you actually do it solo, Isaac, or did you always have a helper?
I did it solo a few times, but I'd say a good half of the time was with a partner. But
S-
my best experience was solo.
Tell us about it. What happened in that experience?
It just felt like the further I went, the more detailed everything was. Everything was so intricate. I walked into this room that was all wood, wood table, wood doors. Then
right?
when I opened the door to go outside, I fell out of a tree because the wood room
Ah,
was in a tree.
okay.
That's pretty much all I remember, but it wasn't like terrifying like the other ones were. It was just like a dream.
Yeah, I see. Well, that was positive. I don't think everything has to have a meaning, and we don't have to psychoanalyze every single thing. I mean, some things can just be cool because they're cool, and it's good enough to experience them that way. That's what I believe.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So here, time for a tiny little story from my childhood, which is basis
All
of the
right.
subreddit. So back then, so this was in middle school, and I was reading stuff about lucid dreaming. And what I learned is that when the dream is in the lucid stage, there is a certain wave. So let me see, brain waves, lucid dreaming. It goes into a certain state. I was hoping for a Wikipedia. Delta, theta. I believe it was gamma. So basically, this is the frequency in which neurons in the brain communicate to each other, as measured by an encephalocardiogram machine, which is just measuring the electrical impulses. Goes blip, 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 blip. So I thought that if you had some sort of mask or device with maybe a little light, and if this light was blinking in your eye as you were sleeping, then the brain eventually would start to emulate that same rate, right, in hertz, which is blinks per uh, unit of time. And by wearing it, it would therefore cause lucid dreaming. So I had a best friend. He was also in middle school. This is how young we were, and he was in a lab. This is in Mexico, so we call it taller of all things electronic, right? And he could create this little circuit that would make the blinking lights just blink at a certain rate. And we put that on one of those masks that you wear over your eyes when you want to go to sleep. So it just
They sell that on the market now. It's a product you could buy.
are you kidding me right now, Sean?
No, a couple years ago they did a Kickstarter. I've got one in the room that I used for lucid dreaming for a while.
Oh my God! What do you call that? Lucid dreaming mask?
Yeah, it's like a RIM Dream Mask or something like that. It's there's a bunch of different competitors on the market now,
Jesus
but they
Christ!
That is
somebody
like
took
so
that
cool.
idea and made it into. I'll actually post a link in the chat.
I could have been rich, Sean. I could I could have patented this stuff. Oh my God. Does it work the same way? Let me if I read about alpha waves, okay, how does this work? Again, this mask has light technology, causes lights to flash. God damn it. When you are in REM sleep, only the lights are also accompanied audible beeping. Okay, I guess I know what I'm buying next. So so that was my story. And the other story, which is before I came up with the mask, I had this technique that I would tell my friends to do in order to get lucid dreaming. And if I remember correctly, the steps were like this. First, you had to lay down on the bed and just not move at all, right? Because the idea was to make your brain forget the position of your body and to make your brain forget the feeling of the bed, of the clothes, of anything. So you're just laying down, trying to get the sense that you don't know where your hands are anymore, right? Because yes, they're by your side, but you're not really feeling them and you're not really focusing on them. Step two, you have to visualize a hallway, and it had to be a very long hallway in your head, and you had to make every effort to try to see yourself actually walking in it. You would hear your footsteps, you would look down or imagine that you're looking down, and you would see your feet moving. You would feel your hands waving around, swinging as you're walking, right? And you had to do this until one of two things happened: either you fell asleep or you started to actually hear your footsteps and actually see your body moving. And once that happens, that means you were there or very close to being there. All you had to do was know that there is a door coming up in the hallway. And when you open that door, anything that you want is going to be beyond that door. Right? So, where do you want to be? You want to be in Disneyland. You open the door, you're in Disneyland, right? You're in an island, just anywhere you want. And if you needed any item, you had to get it from a chest. So apparently, in lucid dreaming, You cannot just wish for things to happen and they just magically, materialize in your hands. You have to do a little bit of like an illusionist kind of magic. When there is a cover or a sheet or something, now you see it, now you don't. In this case, a chest, so that you could give your own brain a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, right? Like it's like you almost have to make your brain suspend disbelief, and it's more believable than what you want is behind the door or inside the chest than just right there in front of your face instantly, right? So I will always give them
If
that advice: wait for the door, wait
your
for the chest.
your thinking mind is just like any audience, you've got to trick it.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta make it believable a little bit, right? And then the brain will go with you, and then you would just have fun in your dream. Right? So back then in middle school, I used to kill zombies. I don't know why. I don't know what that says about my personality, but that was my lucid dream go-to. I would get some sort of weapon, and I would kill zombies. I don't know. I feel I'm cringing just remembering that right now, and that's what I would do. And if the dream started to get away from you, if you started to feel like you were about to wake up, then what you had to do was to sit down and feel the floor with both hands and just tell to yourself some sort of helping phrase like stabilize or I'm here or I'm touching you, whatever, touch the floor, right? And then the dream would stabilize and you would feel back to your senses, and off you go, kill more zombies. So, so that's what I used to do. So, what is your opinion of that, both Dapper and Isaac? What do you think of that lucid dreaming technique? I mean, and if you don't like it, feel free to, because I was in middle
Well,
school
I
anyway.
think it's pretty prevalently talked about in all the circles I go through, the cult and paranormal circles and 4chan and Reddit and such. A lot of them use lucid dreaming as a sort of base, because even if you're just not doing supernatural, if you're doing like magic or anything, it is a base foundation for exercising your imagination and your brain gear.
That's right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, do you still do red door, yellow door, and do you think it's safe, Isaac?
Um, yeah, I think it's safe
Uh, what,
if you exercise caution. It's safe.
a lot of questions, a very frequent question that we get in the subreddit is which rituals are safe. So if I search for the word here, super safe games, I play some rituals. Am I safe? Are there any safe beginner rituals? Any rituals that are safe to do alone? Look how frequently this comes up, right? So what would you answer to that question? What would you say is safe to do? Red door, yellow door, or what else?
Well, it depends on it's going to kill you or it's going to harm you. I
Yeah, that
think red door, yellow door is relatively safe, but think I don't think anything should be labeled as safe because there's always going to be somebody that's going to do it. So,
yeah. No,
I'd project that question out onto the rest of your life. What part of your neighborhood's safe? What time of day is that part of the neighborhood safe? And
uh,
what if it just coincidentally seems to be the one part of the day, the one time when people who normally wouldn't go through happen to be going through? You could encounter danger any time of day in any neighborhood.
yes, that's right. That's a good way to look at it, right? Because it shifts the onus of responsibility away from the ritual and back onto you,
Well,
right?
I mean, obviously, if you go to certain parts of town, you're probably safe. You go there in the daylight, you go when there's police officers. It's a lot different than going in dark alleyways at nighttime looking for criminals or
Absolutely.
monsters.
Yeah, no, no, I hear you. So, if you had to advise anybody on how to be safe while exploring the paranormal stuff, what kind of advice would you give? And this is a question for both of you. Dapper, you go first, then I'll ask you, Isaac. How do you advise someone on they want to know how to be safe?
Proceed
What do you?
cautiously,
Yeah.
always come prepared with something to defend yourself and be prepared to get the hell out.
Have an exit strategy and be prepared. What
Cardio and double tap.
exactly? I was about to go there. You beat me to it. How about you, Isaac? What would you advise?
I think you just have to be calm doing. Like if you know something, pretend it for your own sake. And I I think there's power in numbers. I think you have to follow the rules and know your limits, you know?
Hmm. I agree with everything both of you have said. If I could add just one more thing, is be careful with how much you believe in these things, because something that I actually wrote in Three Kings is, if you're gonna do this just half-ass, then half-ass it all the way, right? So it won't work, and you will think, yeah, what a fun waste of time, and I'm off to playing Xbox or whatever, right? Because the worst thing you can do is believe in something to the level where it will have an effect, but not to the level where you're prepared for that effect, right? You can half-ass it in such a way that it actually, has an impact, but because you were half-assing it, you're not, you don't know how to handle that impact, and you're not prepared for that impact. And I've seen that, unfortunately. I mean, one of the reasons why I keep this a Reddit is because a lot of people message me about really bad experiences they had with Three Kings, and at times it does make me feel a little guilty. I put something out into the world, and some people are getting hurt by it. Not everyone, of course, and some other people have very positive results, and they have sort of epiphanies that they reach. But in the end, it comes down to how much care do you put, and how much preparation do you put, and how ready are you to handle these altered states of mind. In fact, I think I have it in the sidebar. There is a certain risk that you have to account for. So yeah, I wish people keep all these things in mind. uh, Isaac, you mentioned there were other rituals that you had tried. So, red door, yellow door, you said everyone does that. But then you did another one. Which was it again?
I did In the Eye of the Giant.
That one. Let's see. In the Eye of the Giant. Let's take a look. 7 months ago. Okie doke. Try the new ritual, even though. Oh, this is you. With some drinking. Don't ask me. I have no clue. To find in meditation. Here is a link. In the Eye of the Giant. All right, let's look at a link. An informative guide. Oh, this is no sleep on how to stop being a brat. Prepare yourself. So this is a long link. Give us the summary. What is in the eye of the giant about? How does this work?
It's very similar to that lucid dreaming you did with the hallway and red door, yellow door, in that you have to guide yourself into a trance. You go down a long staircase and then you find three doors. Once you're in a trance,
Yeah,
you can just you'll just know, and then you'll get some doors. It's really weird. You'd have to experience it to know.
interesting.
And in each of the doors there is a, if you could see my air quotes right now, I I wish you could. There is an air quotes giant,
Okay,
and it it supposedly represents a part of your subconscious.
I
And
see.
I believe one of them is, oh man, I don't quite remember. I
No,
know
I
they
have
have
it
three
here. I
different
have it in front of me.
personalities.
I have it in front of me. It says, first is the gentle giant, foundation of your humanity. It is every steady thing, every constant in your life. It is a mountain, an endless forest, an ocean floor. So that's the gentle giant. Swirling giant is the ever-changing whims of your humanity. So passionate, short-tempered, rash, intuitive, sharp, bold. So it reminds me of change or fire if you go by the classical elements. Third is the Gaunt Giant. Gaunt Giant is your most flawless reason laid bare. It is a being of cold and infallible logic, and this giant speaks to you as you would to a complete stranger, utterly devoid of sympathy, and give you no quarter and ruthless insight. So that's Mr. Spock, basically. So this is the mind. No, this is no, but this is interesting. So gentle giant is nurturing and kind, and is is like a foundation. Swirling
It's
giant,
basically your dad. It's
yeah,
dad's telling you. He's going to tell you your problems.
that's
He's not
exactly
going to pull
right.
any punches.
That's exactly right. Swirling giant is like, the whims of the heart, and the things you want, and the fire, and the passions of friendship and love. Ground giant is the cold, analytical mind that judges you and tells you what you've done wrong, but it feels nothing. Fourth is the shaded giant. The shaded giant says here is everything you like about yourself, your most personal desires, and the things you want the most, and speaks as you would to yourself. So, did you see all of these giants, Isaac?
I don't remember if I saw the shaded giant, but
Okay.
I briefly talked to the other three. I
How did
I
it
did get
go?
to
How did
experience
it
that.
go? Tell us about it.
Um, well, I remember the gentle giant.
Yeah.
When I opened that door, it was a complete different scene. There was this like super tall woman in the middle with a floral dress on, and all around was like nature and bird cages and flowers and a little chair shaped like a watermelon.
Okay.
And when I spoke to her, it felt like a really close friend speaking to.
Uh,
When I got to the the gaunt giant, that was
yeah, the logical one.
the room was rocks, all rocks, and it wasn't open like the last one. It was just almost like a cave. He was
Okay.
just sitting in the middle with his knees up to his chest. He's like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "I don't even know." And he's like, "Get out."
Okay.
So,
Well, that's pretty logical. Okay.
yeah. So I think this did last for a couple of hours for me, but not 10. I'm not sure how it could last for 10.
I see. No, 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 no.
The
10,
when
10 is impossible, I don't think.
Yeah, when I got to talk to the swirling giant, I think that was my favorite
Okay.
because it was all celestial, you know. She
Okay.
had like globes lined up on the wall, like everything was blue. And when she when she talked, it's so weird because I knew I wasn't really there, but it just felt like it.
Ah,
It was like when she was speaking, it felt like she was breathing life into everything she was talking about.
I see.
And I don't know, I just that was just a really good thing for me to experience. I recommend
It's
it to
just
everyone.
it's just a very positive experience, and I think, if anyone was very skeptic, they would say, yeah, this is not really supernatural. These are just different parts of your mind. Like Freud would call it the id, the ego, and the superego, right?
I don't know if you remember that scene in Fight Club where they have him go into his mind cave and he sees a penguin that says "slide."
Why
Yeah.
do you keep referencing movies? You've got Zombieland and Fight Club.
No, believe me, that I have him here for that reason. He has forgotten more than I'll ever know. I'm standing awe every time, but it's true. But it's true. I mean, this is. Here's what I'm thinking. As I was reading about Red Door, Yellow Door, and now I'm reading about In the Eye of the Giant, and then we have this other one we haven't even touched. It's called Doors to the Mind. All of these are guided meditation that takes the shape of a particular narrative. There is an analogy. Could be doors, could be giants, could be hallways, and is going to represent parts of yourself. Right? People used to ask me, "Do you think Three Kings is like spirits? Like, is there a queen and is there a fool?" I always thought, no, these are just parts of your subconscious that are being sort of anthropomorphized. Jesus, that's a long word. in that certain shape, right? Because that is how you can handle them. That is how you can deal with them. So I would say there is a part of yourself, Isaac, that is celestial, right? And brings life to everything. And there is a part of yourself that is logical and apparently grumpy. And right. So and by exploring this in a dream, I think you are getting to know yourself. And I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
So maybe what we should do is have some sort of exercise where we create like a new ritual, right? It's going to be a guided meditation, and we're going to think of a new analogy to make, right? Similar to these giants. And maybe we're gonna make it something positive and something useful, right? And if people, get into this meditative state, putting their head in somebody they trust's lap, and they, are guided into this narrative, maybe something positive will come out of it. That would be a good positive thing to do. I mean, what do you think, Sean? Can we invent our own ritual here?
Absolutely. All rituals are at some point invented.
Yeah, I mean that would be a nice outcome. That
What
would
we
be
have to do is find the tools that work, what creates actual outcomes, and then use that as a successful formula guideline to create our own version.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, good, good. I think we can end the show on this positive, happy note. Uh, Isaac, I mean, at the beginning, you said that you're still having some issues, this negativity around you. And Sean suggested that everyone in the community maybe they give you ideas on perhaps how come things can get better. So if it's okay with you, when I post the comments, I'll just say that if anyone has any ideas that they think you should try, that maybe they could help you, to feel free to comment. Would that be okay?
Oh,
We lost you there for a second. I think there's some problem with the connection.
oh, my bad. Of course, that would be like so helpful.
Great, great. And again, right? I mean, we don't know what we don't know, right? They're gonna say, I don't know what they're gonna say, sages or salt or something. And like with all things, if we put belief in it, we give it power. And if that belief is positive, then the power is positive, and it's gonna have a good effect on you, I believe. So you'll stand better off. So yeah, that will also be a positive thing. Sean, any last comments you'd like to make before we close the show?
I'd say it's a good project for us to do over this next week is to come up with a ritual and post it sometime midweek and then get
Yeah,
some feedback next weekend on our own Three Kings made ritual.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, clearly it's possible, right? It is possible to put somebody in a trance, put them into a narrative that is going to reflect parts of themselves and their personality, and if they can have some introspection out of that, then we'll have done a good thing. Isaac, any last comments before we close the show?
Um, Stay cool, y'all.
Stay cool, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the Three Kings podcast. Thank you for listening. We're going to be here next week, and we'll continue talking to members of the community and seeing, what else, other positive things we can get out of this. So join us in reddit.com/r3kings and follow this podcast, this Twitch TV/Fable Forge. Until next week, everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both.